the record button yet. There it is. Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the April 18th, 2023 City Planning Commission meeting. Spring is finally here, so I'm excited about that. The commissioners look forward to hearing your case today, as we understand every project is important and unique. In addition, we want to make sure we address all of the docketed items individually with the attention they need to build consensus between the applicant, public, and city staff. We also believe we can reach consensus by being brief yet heard. Because our meeting is hybrid, we have time limits for the cases that we hear, which is 5 minutes for staff presentations and 20 minutes for the applicant, plus questions by the commissioners. When we move to public comment, I will call on those who are in the council chambers first, followed by those who are joining us virtually. We do have a timer to keep our meeting on track and expect public comments to be no longer than 2 minutes when speaking as an individual, or up to 5 minutes when representing a community association or larger group. In all instances, please limit repetitive comments. Comprehensive plan, Casey Spirit Book is approaching the goal line. We'll hear more about that here today. And I'll be able to take that off my list of announcements, I think. So as we get started with our meeting, I asked staff to provide some ground rules and instructions to ensure that we have minimal disruption and maximum clarity. So Joe, can you remind us of those ground rules, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have participants today, both in the chamber with us as well as online virtually on Zoom. If you are on Zoom, the attendees there are broken into 2 categories currently, which consist of panelists, which are currently the staff and the commissioners participating remotely, and attendees. If you're just an attendee on Zoom at this point, when your case is called, if you're the applicant, please go ahead and raise your hand right away in Zoom so that we can promote you over to a panelist position. And then once the planner is presenting the case, if you're a citizen who wishes to provide testimony, please raise your hand at that point. And when the chair calls for a public hearing, we'll promote you over. The promotion will come to you as a question, and you'll need to accept that promotion to be moved over into that position. And once you're there, you'll be able to share your audio and video. We ask that you stay muted until you speak, and then mute yourself once you're done speaking. We will take up testimony from those in the chamber first and then turn to you. The final thing, Mr. Chair, is to remind everyone that the chat feature in Zoom is intended only for technical questions and questions related to placement on the agenda, and is not to be used for providing testimony on the merits of any project. That's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just want to also point out that we have 3 commissioners here in person, and we also have 3 that are joining us online. And 2 of them are absent today due to either personal or work items. So just want to let you know that. So with that, let's go through our consent agenda, please.
Okay, we have 1 consent agenda item, docket item C1, case number final plat 2023-00005. A request to approve a final plat in District R 7.5 on 20 acres on the west side of North Brighton Avenue at Northeast 89th Drive to create 33 lots. Staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners regarding docket item C1? Seeing none here and none online. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item C1, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
My Zoom is not working well right now. Is someone on staff over there on Zoom? And is there anyone with a raised hand?
No one in the audience is raising their hand.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and close public testimony then, and I'll take a motion on docket item C1, please.
Mr. Chair, I move docket item C1 be approved with conditions.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item C1. Lisa, can you take roll call on the motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes then 6-0. All right, with that, let's move to our regular agenda items, beginning with those that are looking to be continued to a future date, please.
All right, our continuances start with docket item number 7. Case number CPC 2023-00029. A request to approve a rezoning without a plan from District R 7.5 to District R 80 on about 2 acres located at the corner of West Red Bridge Road and State Line Road. The applicant is requesting continuance to June 6 and staff recommends without fee. Next one is docket item 8, case number CPC 2023-00003. A request to approve a rezoning from District R 7.5 to District B 3-2 and from District R 7.5 and District B 3-2 to District B 4-2 to allow gasoline and fuel sales in a warehouse on about 1.5 acres at 1215 East Bannister Road. Docket item number 9, case number SUP 2022-00056. Request to approve a special use permit for a restaurant in District R6 on about 0.05 acres at 2032 Summit Street. The applicant is requesting continuance off docket and staff recommends with fee. I don't think I told you what the recommendation on docket item 8 was. The prior case that I read, that's also off docket and without fee.
Okay.
Docket item 10, case number CPC 2023-00016. A request to approve a development plan which serves as a preliminary plat in District M 3-5 to allow for a 135,000 square foot data center on 38 acres at Missouri Highway 210 and North Arlington Avenue. The applicant requests continuance to May 2nd. Staff recommends without fee. Docket item 11, case number SUP 2023-00007. Request to approve a special use permit for a bed and breakfast on about 1/2 acre at 426 Gladstone Boulevard. Applicant requests continuance to May 16th. Staff recommends with fee. And then we also have a request for dismissal of docket item 12. Do you want me to read that now or wait?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay. Docket item 12 is case number SUP 2023-00009. Request to approve a special use permit for a short-term rental on about 1/10 of an acre at 5119 Baltimore. The applicant is requesting dismissal.
Okay, thank you. Docket item 8, you said that's without fee or with fee since you're taking it off docket.
It's Andy's case. I'm going to ask him if there's a specific reason why we recommended without fee. Normally, we would recommend with fee on an off docket item.
With this applicant, Mr. Banday, we had discussed they will probably be coming back with this project.
Okay. Okay. So I guess in this one, Mr. Chair, we recommend without fee.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners regarding docket items 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12? Anybody online? Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If anybody would like to speak regarding continuance of docket items 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12, and I think we have a dismissal in there. Please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon. Come on up to the podium there so we can, and then speak into the microphone if you don't mind. State your name and address for the record.
Richard Hernandez, 2106 Holly, Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
I have some info here unless you want me to read it out to you.
I'm only wanted to listen just about the continuance of, I don't want to get into the merits of the case because we are continuing it to a future
Well,
meeting.
we're asking for dismissal of this case. We've exhausted everything we could do to meet the public engagement. And it's been going on since December. So we're asking for dismissal. Maybe y'all can consider that.
And that's docket item number 9 you're
Yes.
speaking of. Yeah, and I think that's why they want to take it off docket so that they can have some public meetings and meet with the neighbors regarding that. That's what I understand.
Yeah.
So,
Got like 10 times we've tried to meet. So thank you.
okay, thank you. Anybody else like to speak regarding the continuance of any of those docket items?
Mr. Chair, there's
Hi
one
there, my
person
name is-
online.
Kate Crossley, 2104 Holly Street. I'm also a resident of the West Side. I'm the owner of 2032 Summit Street
Okay,
and
just don't want to get into the merits of the
Okay.
case, just only the continuance of it to
Okay.
it's going to be held off docket is what they're looking to do.
Okay. Is that all?
Yeah,
Okay.
unless you want to talk about
She's
the
the
continuance of
applicant.
it.
Oh, no, that's
You
fine. As
can.
long as it's continued, I'm okay with
Yeah.
that.
Well, so we'll hear the case probably at a future date. down the
Okay,
road.
sounds
Okay,
good. Thank you.
thank you. Anybody
Chair,
else like to speak regarding continuance of these docket items?
There's one person online that's been promoted named Elizabeth Mountier.
Okay,
Hello, so I'm here not to talk about the merits of the case, but really in regards to the public engagement process and why it should be continued. Is that okay?
I think you're talking about docket item 9. Yeah, we
Correct.
don't want to get
correct.
into the merits of the case at this
Not the
time.
merits of the case, but in regards to the public engagement
yeah.
process.
Okay,
So my name is Elizabeth Mountier. I live at 2031 Summit Street. I'm also the secretary of the West Side Neighborhood Association. And like Richard said, since December 2022, we have tried to follow the rules for public engagement with the applicant for nearly half a year, as you can imagine. First, she had scheduled a Zoom meeting 2 days before Christmas with only a few days' notice to residents, which was not the 10-day notice as required by the city. And so we reached out to her and she ignored us for nearly a month. Finally, we attempted to meet with her again, and she said she would be out of town. So we agreed to Zoom in with her. And unfortunately, the meeting was canceled the day of, and we had to stand outside the building waiting for nearly an hour with our neighbors to tell them the meeting had been canceled. We had rescheduled again, and she failed to mail a notice to neighbors because she said that she didn't think that it was required. So that's like sending a Zoom meeting invite, but not emailing it out. And then after that, we tried to schedule it again. And then once again, the 10-day notice was not followed. And so the applicant had said that, she's not a veteran to the city engagement process, but it was made very clear by city planner Justin Smith. And she owns 12 properties in our neighborhood. So it's really hard to believe that you have no problem reading real estate contracts, but cannot follow a simple public engagement process. And so for that reason, just the fact that a lot of us work full time, go to school full time, have children, have to come up with, just childcare, so many reasons, we would like to request to dismiss this case, given the exhaustion and manipulation tactics.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else?
No, Mr. Chair. Oh,
Okay, this time we'll go ahead and close public testimony. I don't think the applicant is here on this, I imagine.
no, she
Okay.
spoke briefly.
Okay. You mind coming back up? So we're looking to continue this case off docket, and obviously the big thing is you need to have your public involvement meetings. Is that something that we can get done before you come back?
Yes, we had the first public meeting and we thought it was okay. It was online. It was 10 days before. Because it was 11 a.m., the West Side thought that wasn't a good time. So I did not follow the hours. So that was the first one. The second one, I was out of town and my team could not show up. The last one, the letters went out, but they found one that was stamped 8 days versus 10 and decided to decline the meeting.
Okay, yeah, I just suggest you schedule it at a time that's convenient
Yeah.
for people to make it. Sometimes that has to be in the evening,
Understood.
so,
Understood.
okay.
I think,
Um,
so one thing that I do want to
Sorry,
add
I've
is,
closed public testimony. Thank
okay,
you. Okay, any questions from the commission regarding this docket item 9, I guess? Ashley or Kokethia or,
No, I would just say it's a little disappointing to hear how many times the community had to wait for that meeting. So I don't want to see that happening again.
okay. All right. Thank you. So with that, I'll take a motion, please, on the continuance of these docket items, please.
Mr. Chair, I move that docket items 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 be continued as per docket, and item number 12 be denied.
Okay, got a motion?
Oh,
You
dismissed,
s-
sorry.
yeah.
Dismissed, sorry.
You said Item 9 or you mean
Sorry,
12?
7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 as per docket.
Okay.
And then item number 12 be dismissed.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for continuance of docket items 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 as stated on our agenda, and then the dismissal of docket item number 12. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill. Aye. And Sadowski.
Okay, so it looks like the motion passes for continuance and or dismissal of those cases listed. 6-0. All right, let's go ahead with our first item on our agenda, please.
All right, we have 2 companion cases, starting with docket item 1.1, case number MISC 2022-00001. Receiving from Long Range Planning and Development staff the final draft of the city's new comprehensive plan, the KC Spirit Playbook, and requesting that the commission recommend adoption of said plan. And then docket item 1.2, case number CPC 2023-00033, amending chapter 88 of the Kansas City Code of Ordinances, commonly referred to as the Zoning and Development Code, as it pertains to references to the comprehensive plan, to amend said references from focus to the KC Spirit Playbook. And we have Director Williams, who I think may start, Gerald Williams, our Long Range Planning Division Manager, and Morgan Pemberton, who's been the project manager on the comprehensive plan.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Joe. Good morning, Chair, Commission members, Jeffrey Williams, Director of City Plan Development, and very pleased to be in front of you today with the final draft, the product, the KC Spirit Playbook. As you know, and as you mentioned, this is an item that often gets referenced because it's been in process for over 3 years. And because of that fact, and because for today, there may be people watching the meeting, this is the first time, there may be some ground that we've covered with you all multiple times, but we felt because this is our final presentation to you with the product, we wanted to take you through the entirety of the process in a fairly expeditious manner. But again, we thank you for the time and the continued consideration of this document. So let's put up the agenda of what points we're going to cover today. So we're going to do a few things. We just want to do an overview of the overall planning process, because the process is just as important as the final product as it relates to a comprehensive plan. Using the playbook, again, this is a tool. It is not just a document to be placed on a shelf. Yes, you all did indeed receive a PDF version of some multiple hundreds of pages, but that is really the static version of this. This is an electronic, dynamic, interactive tool, and we'll spend some time talking about that. Then also about the idea of implementation. A plan is only as good as the elements that get implemented and considered, and with the periodic review note there, analyzed and evaluated, and you'll understand and know more about the metrics associated with this plan and judging and guiding its successful implementation. The final piece, of course, will be the public hearing and getting public feedback. With that, let's just roll into things that we've covered before. But what is the playbook? It's the comprehensive plan for the next 20 years for Kansas City. A comprehensive plan guides decisions regarding development, physical and built environment, and issues related to development and land use and investments. It's also another policy guide. It is one of the many one of the elements of the suite of policies the city has that focus on areas like transportation and housing and livability. The plan that we are working under at present is Focus. It was adopted in 1997. Plans have about a 20-year lifespan, so we are due to update. We've not been static during that time. We've been working on other planning efforts, but we're ready to move on to a new comprehensive plan. So why do we need a comprehensive plan? Well, it's really a requirement from the state of Missouri, and states all across the country require municipalities adopt a city plan for the physical development of the municipality. So this is not an initiative that is unique to Kansas City. Cities all across the country have comprehensive plans. They have guides and policies to understand how decisions should be made as it relates to physical change in a community. Okay, who's going to use the playbook? we could replace the word you with really hopefully everybody. We're looking to have this be a web-based tool. Part of the elements we'll build out later on are what we call personas. Who is using the plan and making sure we point people to those sections of the plan that most likely relate to what they're trying to accomplish in terms of getting approval for development. So it's for all Kansas City, it's for our city leaders, it's for this very body, elected officials as well, myself as department manager and other departments within the city and their operations, developers, local organization, and our regional partners as well. The schedule, and it's nice to be at 2023. This graphic was indeed put together closer to 2019. It's been multiple years, but we wanted to make sure that we laid the good ground in case to understand why we need to do this and engage many people through over the course of these last 3 years through listening, getting feedback, continuing that, taking elements of this plan and breaking them into different strategy areas, and then ultimately morphing things into the recommended proposals you have in front of you. And then it's that drafting process. As I close, I'll start putting numbers to the time and number of recommendations that we all worked on as staff to draft preparation, refinement, and then the final plan you see in front of you. And I mentioned staff also with lots of staff and consultant support as well. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Morgan Pemberton, and Morgan's going to take us through that public engagement process and the elements of it. Morgan.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us today. So I will try and summarize about 3.5 years of work into about 2 minutes. So we started the process in late 2019 with pre-planning, figuring out how we were going to approach the process, how we were going to kick off the process, and all of those types of elements. Obviously, the pandemic changed our plans a little bit, so we had to switch to a primarily virtual public engagement process. Then once we were able to safely go back out into the community to have face-to-face conversations, we did attend a lot of in-person events. During that first phase up until May 2020, we also acquired the city's website so that we could adequately perform that online public engagement. Playbook.kcmo.gov has been where we have done all of those activities and surveys that we also did in person at some of those events. So after May of 2020, when we had to revise our plans a little bit and we launched the website, that was when we went into an issues inventory phase. This phase really focused on listening to the public and understanding what the public's main concerns were, what the things that they loved about the city were that we wanted to retain over the next couple of decades, and the big policy issues that they wanted to address over the next 20 years. This culminated with an issue inventory that documented those issues, the values of the community, and the ideas that they had to try and solve the problems that they saw in their city. Next was the vision and goals phase. Went from about August 2020 to April 2021. This is when we started to craft elements of the plan. We created vision statements, citywide goals that were developed through the engagement that we did with the public, but also in coordination with our empowerment committee, whose main task was to help us make sure that we were considering equity at every phase of this process, that we were lifting up the voices of the people of Kansas City and making sure that this was a very people-driven and people-focused plan. The next phase, about May 2021 through March of 2022, was detailed recommendations. So after the first initial phases of public engagement, this is where we started to dive into the details. We took our broad questions and started to focus in on certain policy areas, certain policy solutions. We wanted to know how we should approach these things, how aggressive we should be in approaching these solutions. We held a series of public meetings called strategy sessions based on 4 areas: visibility, mobility, livability, and serviceability. In those meetings, we took the conversations from those broad questions down into detailed proposed solutions, and then we presented some draft recommendations to the public to let them know what they could expect as the final draft of the plan was put together. And then after those strategy sessions wrapped up, we moved into our draft plan and adoption phase, which was April of 2022 through today. We began to write the plan, which took quite a bit of time. It is a very long document. This is when everything was edited. It was run through different mechanisms of review. We kept in touch with our partners and our city departments and our regional agencies, our stakeholders, and also keeping the public updated as well about what we were doing as we were writing the documents, making sure that everything was still on track, and we were working with our departments and our other regional partners as well. So that brings us to today. We have the final draft of the plan for you. It has been on the website, playbook.kcmo.gov, for the last several months for everyone to be able to review. And that will be where the plan lives predominantly. We want it to be a web-based tool that's user-friendly, that people can access whenever they need to and find the information they're looking for quickly. So with that, I'm going to let Gerald take over.
All right, thank you, Morgan. And again, I know we've been through this in previous presentations. This is mostly for those viewing or present who may not have seen this information previously, but the plan organization rather is basically the vision sits on top of the entire document. It's the guiding tone setting section of the plan where we talk about what the city will be in the future. It's a descriptive section. And that's also where our equity statements reside and our 5 big ideas as well. Then our goals and topics begin to talk a little bit more about how we achieve the vision there, a little bit more action oriented. They talk about how we get to where the vision describes. And then the objectives really dive into the actions and strategies. That's where all of our recommendations reside. There are 21 of those, and we'll walk through those in a moment. And then we have an implementation section that talks about who implements and how. And we have details on each recommendation about general costs, who's responsible for implementing, time frames, and things like that. This is our vision statement. I won't read it, but again, we worked early on in the process to establish this. One of the first things we did as a product to back to the public for reaction and feedback. Next slide. We have these supporting statements that add detail and some clarity on what that generic vision statement really is saying about Kansas City and how it should be in 20 years in the future. And we also have the equity statements, which talk specifically about equity and what equitable development in Kansas City looks like. The 5 big ideas, you could view this as our elevator speech for the plan. You know, if we do nothing else, we do these 5 things. These are the 5 main ideas for the plan, and those reside within the vision as well. And then we have our 10 goals, which again begin to talk a little bit more about how we achieve the vision. Each of these, if you look in the plan, will tell you where to look in those objectives I referred to find the specific strategies. So if you're interested just in diversity and opportunity, you can go to that goal and it will point you to where else in the plan you should be looking to find those strategies, those guidelines and recommendations. And then our 21 objectives, everything from access to jobs to Vision Zero, talk about or contain rather all of our community supported actions, which are all of our recommendations and strategies. And they also relate to other objectives and they relate back to the goals and topics as well. Next slide. Our implementation chapter has the matrix and of course on the website that's expressed as a dashboard. It's an interactive tool where you can search and filter and sort recommendations by different goals, topics, or objectives. In the hard copy or PDF copy of the plan, it's just a table or matrix rather, where we have each CSA with who's responsible to implement it, general cost information and timeframes. We have measures of success identified for each objective. Those talk about metrics for how do we know we're achieving each of these objectives. And that's something that we would like to track over time, and we'll have a dashboard that shows those metrics as well. And then periodic review of the plan. You know, it is a 20-year plan, but it is necessary to periodically revisit it, update it, tweak it as needed. So our implementation chapter also has our evaluation measures or tools rather for new development. So we have our goal supporting criteria, which is a list of questions, and Director Williams will talk about that in a moment when we focus on our implementation actions post-adoption, where you can use this as a tool to evaluate projects in the staff report, for instance, and it's based on those 10 goals that we talked about a moment ago. Our global design guidelines are those guidelines we want to see anywhere in the city. Those are the universal things that we want to see in just about every place in the city, regardless of context. But our development form guidelines will include that context. We'll have unique guidelines depending on where you are in the city that respond to and respect that unique context, a rural or a suburban or a dense urban. Off to Mr. Williams.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams. Again, the idea of putting the plan together is for it to be implemented. And Gerald made reference to the implementation section of the plan, but we felt now that we're at a place where we hope we have an adopted plan very soon. Exactly what does implementation mean? And it's work beyond just the preparation of the document. So additional elements, Gerald had referenced different criteria that would be used to evaluate physical development. So we have goal supporting actions, we have global design considerations. We also have our development form pieces, but there'll be additional elements that we want to share with the community through preparing design prototypes. So taking the plan recommendations and beginning to depict them as examples, as best practices. And we have support and the funding to be able to build those out post-adoption. Education and outreach. It is a 20-year plan, and there are significant changes from the previous plan, but we also know that it's just not a matter of passing something and immediately have everybody to pivot to take in all of these different new criteria and evaluation tools. So it's education and outreach will continue, getting people aware of the plan, where to find it, what its elements are. Again, to be able to build those individual personas. If you are a developer, you might want to start here. If you're a neighborhood leader, you might want to start there. So we'll continue to do those things. Implementation planner, and that means that we have dedicated ourselves, whether through existing staff or hopefully acquiring additional staff, to have somebody that's focused in just on the implementation of this plan, to continue the work not only with our customers, with citizens, with other entities, governmental agencies, to help us begin the steps of getting elements implemented. Providing some new zoning tools and visualization tools. Now that the plan is in an electronic environment, we want to really leverage the ability to help everyone get some good visual understanding of what something that's going to be proposed, what it would look like, and what the impacts are. And so visualization tools, we're moving that direction as well. Mr. Williams mentioned restructuring or reshaping of the staff reports that you see. Now that there would be a different criteria, there are some set standards to look at design, globally, in this case, across the entire the city. How is what is being proposed supportive of goal actions? And was mentioned there is a kind of like checklist and story map. Story maps is just a different way, again, to be able to depict or show your staff report. And I think we use the word checklist, but I want to be clear in that this plan recommends a series of items and aspirations. It's not that every project needs to meet all of them, but I think it's just an understanding of considerations. How does the development that you all are evaluating meet and help in terms of implementation of the overall plan? And then ultimately a yearly report. And I think I'll say for this year report, understanding how important this plan is to the city's overall operation, and understanding how the elements of this plan will tie into the business plan and tie into the city's other tools in terms of helping with its governance, and just a yearly report back. We will have metrics now. And the great thing about the metrics that are in the plan is that they're pretty clear in terms of what we're looking to judge. If there's a particular element or factor that we want to see more of, we hope it's increased over the year. If it's something that we're trying to alleviate or eliminate, we hope that there's been a decrease. And that yearly report benchmark coming back to the City Plan Commission and others about how are we doing on the plan, that's to help assure that we're moving in the right direction. That's also to help ensure that there are no unintended consequences based upon the adoption of the plan and the accomplishment of the objectives. So those are all the ways in which we're looking at implementation as it relates to the plan. With that, before we go to Q&A, I would ask for 2 minutes. I think we're still in time. I just wanted to offer some comments as we wrap up the preparation of the playbook. You know, when we began this endeavor 3+ years ago, you know, the world was really a very different place, a number of different fronts. You know, I thought the biggest hurdle would be how we would inspire the stakeholders, Kansas City, to dive into topics and have really candid conversations around things like mutual benefit and equity versus equality. And really understanding our community should be judged on how we provide a physical environment that supports everybody in the quest for a healthy, enriching experience here in Kansas City as a resident or a service provider or as a visitor. You know, as we prepared to kick off the process, I remember back to comments made by David Vondrelli. He's an editor-at-large at Time Magazine. Back in 2017, he came to the Mark annual luncheon. And he spoke about, in his word quote, overcoming our divisions with vision. And that really struck me, and I wrote it and I left it a note on my desk, but that really came to light about how we thought about approaching the community and how we should be approaching development our community now and for the future. You know, and I think that the KC Spirit Playbook is that long-term approach. You know, it's a playbook. It's the foundational plan, how we encourage and guide and review all aspects of physical growth in the city. You know, our community, you know, our collective community experience coping with a worldwide pandemic, while we're simultaneously identifying, recognizing, responding to systemic injustices. We're doing all that. And I think it's, in preparing this plan, I think it's resulted in a plan that offers community goals and individual actions that have added more inclusive definitions and beneficial actions and solutions to enhance the concepts of sustainability, affordability, equity, resiliency, you know, intrinsic value and unique identity. In preparing the playbook, our goal was really to lean into the spirit of this city, you know, its unique elements and its entities. You know, working with the stakeholders over the past 3 years, it was those real individual experiences and opportunities that were only available in Kansas City that allowed us to collectively identify the big concepts, the objective areas, and the recommendations related to physical change and growth. And we were trying to do that in a way that leveraged resources in a respectful and a non-exploitive manner. We heard very clearly from everyone we needed to be an enhanced, accessible, affordable, nurturing, and authentic version of ourselves and our city, and not just merely a copy of any other city. The present understanding of places is formed by recognition of its past residents and shapers, and acknowledging that residency and shaping was done at times to someone and not necessarily with someone. The playbook preparation process had a primary goal to collectively identify the elements of our city where as many people as possible could agree that an element was of benefit to the entirety of the city, and understanding how we need to promote ourselves and grow as a city through implementing plan elements in an equitable manner. You know, during this process, one of the stakeholders mentioned from her perspective, you know, the physical demonstration of equity in this city would be when everywhere along our boulevard and parkway system, in that great 120+ year old unique element of Kansas City, where everywhere along that system was universally at its physical peak, and its adjacent development is universally expanding in a context-sensitive way and being maintained at its highest quality. That was that person's representation of equity in Kansas City. You know, ultimately, you know, this playbook we want to be a physical manifestation of everyone's unique and collective roles in being a good steward of Kansas City, Missouri. I'll bookend on the other end with another luncheon. This one just happened last week, and with another quote I thought that was really very powerful and helpful. The keynote speaker there, Dan Gardner, spoke on the book. He was one of the authors of How Big Things Get Done. You know, its overall axiom was about the need to be deliberate in planning the execution of any project to assure its outcome on time and on budget. He stated the importance of thinking slowly and thoroughly about a project's execution to allow its execution to happen faster. I offer the KC Spirit Playbook as our city's deliberate consideration of our development opportunities and challenges, while also offering actions and strategies that support the shaping of the city for the benefit of one, many, and all, to expeditiously meet our needs, exceed our greatest expectations, and be that physical place for all to be welcome and succeed. I have to thank our city staff for, this was the numbers part I mentioned earlier, the thousands of hours of work in producing this playbook. It's the people you see, it's the people you don't see, it's the people in this department, people in other departments. And that work reflects one more number, the thousands of comments that we received and were suggested by the residents and stakeholders of this city, and for which we're all truly grateful. This work, you know, and our charge to undertake this update would not have been possible without the support, continued support of city leadership, our city manager and the city council over all these years. And finally, it's a thank you to the City Plan Commission for your continued stewardship of our city and support of this work. We look forward to your support in the playbook's adoption, and ultimately look forward to implementing the recommendations of the plan immediately after its adoption and over the next 20 years. And with that, we'll take questions, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to you guys and staff for all the work that you've done. This is taking on something like this is a huge endeavor, as you discovered, and we discovered as you presented. I mean, but Kansas City, as you know, is such a big city from a geographic standpoint, but there's also the diversity in the city with historical, social places to go, places to see. And then you have the diversity of housing stock and how people like to live, whether in a dense location or even having some land where they can raise chickens and pigs. We have all of that here, and that's kudos to a great plan like this that recognizes that kind of thing and prepares for that stuff. More importantly, I'm looking forward to driving my golf cart as part of the mobility piece. I know that came up in a lot of discussion. Then I can take around the neighborhood and to the store and figure out ways we can do that, because mobility is going to be a big thing as we move forward. Commissioner Beasley is looking to drive her hovercraft, you know, from place to place. So, but thank you for all the work that you've done, and kudos to all of you for your efforts in putting this together. Thank you. Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners regarding the Spirit Playbook? Start with those online. Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Sadowski, or Commissioner Enders.
I just would like to just echo, ditto, double down on everything that Chair Kraus said. Just really thoughtful and intentional execution. No plan is perfect, and certainly I know you all were very good at taking feedback, often criticism about the plan, about how it can be better. What I've appreciated about the process is not only just that we talk about sustainability and forward thinking and reimagining spaces, which are great buzzwords that everybody likes to hear, but I love the intention on, you know, honoring the people and the culture and the architectural fabric of a space, while still holding the opportunity to have possibility thinking about what we could be, so that we can really be a place that has equity at the core, but a place where everyone can live, work, and play. There's still a lot of work to be done across our city, across our different council districts. And I'm just looking forward to seeing the implementation of it. I think, you know, a plan is only as good as it's used, as it's leveraged, and as the community sees it as a vessel to ensure that the project plans that flow throughout are in alignment. So overall, really great job. So super proud and honored to be on the City Planning Commission and to support the work of the department. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner Sadowski?
Yeah, I just also want to echo, thank you so much for the many hours of work that went into this, and also the level to which you emphasized an inclusive process throughout. I think this has been a tough week for all of us in Kansas City, and it's kind of a reminder that we need to do better by our children. And so I hope that this is a moment in which we transform our city and realize a lot of the vision of equity and inclusion and prosperity for Kansas Cityans through this plan. So I'm honored to be a part of it. I'm honored to have given my voice to it, and I really look forward to supporting the implementation.
Commissioner
I'll
Enders?
offer, congratulations to the three of you and the rest of the team. This was a huge effort and just a massive congratulations on a great process and a great product. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like just to echo everybody's comments. I'm excited to see the implementation of the plan, honestly. I think it takes Kansas City to another level. I'm certainly interested to see how we get through some of the challenges that we have in this city to implement the plan. So I just will again echo everybody's comments, but also I just want to thank people of Kansas City for being a part of this plan and making the plan as it is today. You guys put it together, you quarterbacked it and so forth, but we wouldn't have this product without the citizens of Kansas City either. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how we implement it, how we fund it. Exciting times for Kansas City. Thank you.
I'd like to expand on what Commissioner Allender just said. Many times you hear complaints from the community about not being involved. That was not the case from the information we received for this plan, comprehensive plan. So I applaud you for ensuring that the community had a voice in the things that they wanted to see happen in their city over the 20 years. Director Williams, you must have been reading my mind, because one of the things I was sitting here thinking was, okay, so how soon are we going to implement this? And you brought that up. You said immediately. So I'm excited to hear that your foot will not get off the gas pedal, that we will be speeding right along to work with this plan on all departments and all levels. So as everyone else has said, thank you for your dedication, your vision, and love of the city. Thank you so much.
Okay, with that, since we get to vote on this, we need to open it up for public testimony. So if there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket items 1.1 or 1.2, please come forward and you'll be called upon, or raise your hand using the Zoom feature. So with that, we'll open it up.
I see no one in the chamber wishing to speak. We have one person online who's raised their hand.
Okay.
And you'll recognize the name Bobby Baker.
Okay. Bobby, available?
And can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I just wanted to thank the team that put the playbook together, and that it comes out the same year that we had another great playbook, and we won the Super Bowl with that one. This one, we're going to win the city back and into the future. I'm excited with it. And again, I want to thank the team, because they were able to take the comments and the thoughts and the concerns of the citizens and the residents of the Kansas City area and turn those jumbled words into a fabulous document that we have accessibility to, which is key, that we'll be able to follow and enhance our city. So again, thank you very much for the work. It's certainly appreciated by many, myself included.
Thank you. It's nice to hear your voice and see you. All right, anybody else, Joe?
That's it.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Any further comments from our presenters today?
Again, just the deepest of gratitude for all of your support along the way. And we really appreciate the recognition of the work. And I appreciate the recognition of the passion that we all put into this. And so I guess maybe only the spirit of closing that Commissioner Beasley said, to keep our foot to the pedal. I mean, I think the nice thing with this plan, it's a foot to the pedal to a car, to a scooter, to a golf cart, to any other way, to people who keep things moving. So, but no, seriously, no, we really thank you all again for all of the support and encouragement.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, with that, I'll take a motion and let's do them separately because one is an adoption and the other one is approval without conditions. So if somebody wants to make the motion.
Oh, goodbye, Commissioner. The Chair, I'd like to make a motion that docket number 1.1,
Second.
okay, 001 be
You're making a motion to recommend adoption, correct?
recommend adoption
Okay.
of case 0001 of the Kansas City Spirit Playbook.
Okay, second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for adoption, recommendation of adoption for the KC Spirit Playbook. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Mhm. Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowe,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like that motion passes 6-0. With that, we'll move to 1.2, please.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion for item docket 1.2 00033, the Kansas City Spirit Playbook for approval.
Okay. Without conditions.
Oh, without conditions.
All right.
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item 1.2 without conditions. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Mhm. Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowe,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like that motion passes as well, 6-0. So thank you again, and we look forward to the implementation.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you all so very much.
All right.
I'm back now.
We'll be
Okay.
back.
So with that, I think two of our commissioners need to sign off due to other things. So we're going to have only a quorum of 4, which consists of Commissioner Allender, myself, and Commissioner Beasley, and then Commissioner Hill will be with us online. And then, so with that, let's move on to docket item number 2, please.
All right, docket item 2 is case number SUP 2022-00013. Request to approve a special use permit for an event venue in District R80 on 14 acres located at 16499 East 83rd Street. Jared Clements is the staff planner.
Morning, Commissioners. Just getting my PowerPoint loaded up. All right, can y'all see that? So before us, we have docket item number 2. This is case number CD SUP 2022-00013, located at 16499 East 83rd Street, zoning district R80. Applicant in this case is seeking approval of a special use permit to allow for an event venue.
I'm sorry, I cannot see the screen.
Thank you, Kokithia. I realized I just forgot to share my screen. How's that?
All right, she's got it now.
Okay, so this is the location of the subject site. It's within the Little Blue Valley area plan. It's right on the border of Lee Summit. Here is the subject site. For close up, you can see there are a number of buildings to the north of the property. It's around a 15-acre property. So
Mind speaking louder into the microphone, please? It's kind of hard to hear you. Thank you.
sorry. So this is the site plan provided by the applicant. You can see 3 access points to the north, a recently revised parking plan on the east side of the property, a number of buildings in the center of the property, a little bit set back from property lines. Those are the buildings that have to do with the event venue. So the key points of this application, it's a 15-acre rural event venue. They are requesting an alternative compliance parking plan, which is supported by staff. It's a 5-year SUP renewal date. Conditions include receiving a certificate of occupancy for the associated use within 1 year of the issuance date. We have received 3 letters of support from surrounding property owners. Staff finds that it's in compliance with the special use permit review criteria and recommends approval subject to conditions. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission regarding docket item number 2?
No.
The only question I had, I couldn't see the sewer connection. I mean, we're going to have a lot more people coming to that facility. Is the sewer connection okay?
I believe the sewer connection is okay, but we do have the applicant online. They can answer that. It is an existing event venue, I should have mentioned.
Yes, this is Waylon Arndt with Re-Envision Design representing Crestview Dairy Events. As he mentioned, they do have events. They are intermittent, usually, during seasonal weather, since it's primarily an outdoor event venue. They host weddings as well as like charity auctions and other types of events that the community is involved in. The restroom facilities to this point have primarily been the third party providing temporary restrooms, given the temporary, impermanent nature of the events. With this new SUP and going through the building code submission, we will be adding some restroom facilities that are indoor and conditioned and intend to connect those to the existing facility septic, actually, I believe out. And we're in the process of engaging civil engineering to determine the path forward on that.
Okay, so I take it you're the applicant, correct?
I'm acting on behalf of Hal Oppenheimer. He's the property owner. He is also the manager of Crestview Dairy Events, and he lives on site there at the farm.
Okay, all right. One second here. We'll get back to you. Any other questions for city staff on this case?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Hill, did you have any?
No, thank you.
All right, so Mr. Arndt, do you mind stating your name and address then for the record, being the applicant's representative?
Yes, sir. My apologies for that. My name is Waylon Arndt with Re-Envision Design. My address is 8011 Reinhardt Lane, Prairie Village, Kansas, 66208.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a presentation or anything you'd like to discuss regarding this case?
I do not believe so. I think Mr. Colenso has done a good job gathering the information, and hopefully if there's any questions, I can try to address those as need be.
And if you don't mind just kind of giving a brief summary of what's being proposed or planned at this site, what it's going to be used for, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. So the one of the primary nature of the events is weddings. It's a very beautiful farm stead, and the owner has decided in recent time that he'd like to share that with other people. He gets a lot of joy out of it, and so that's one thing that happens. There's also, like I said, there's some different like art type charity auctions and things like that that happen, throughout the landscape. Sometimes these buildings, some of the old farm buildings, are reused for the venue. There's also erection of temporary tents to facilitate larger gatherings for weddings, for example. There is there's a pond on the site there, and they actually part of the property used to be larger, but they donated I think it was 65 acres to St. Michael the Archangel in the adjacent property, so they could build the new Catholic high school on it in recent years. So that's definitely a positive neighbor, and they're in support of this project, as will be evidenced through a letter from the former principal, as well as we have letters from the Little Blue Valley Neighborhood Association and support who attended the meetings. I know there we had 2 public engagement meetings, and unfortunately, we're not fully aware that the event had to be held indoors at the first one, so it was held outdoors, and we had a pretty good turnout there, including the recently retired fire chief of Kansas City. She actually is one of the neighbors and lives across the street. So we went through, any kind of concerns. There were very little concerns and no opposition stated in either of the 2 meetings. So we do believe this is a community asset, as stated in some of the letters of support, and we look forward to continued operation. The St. Michael does actually use the property occasionally for some of their activities as well. And Mr. Oppenheimer is always gracious to accommodate their request to do a march through the property, or they do some fishing tournaments and things like that as well. So it's become a community asset, and Mr. Oppenheimer is glad to be able to share this and is looking forward to another 5 years of being able to do so.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the commission to the applicant?
The only one I've got is with the increasing capacity at that site with the event space, is the septic meeting code and so forth for us?
You are allowed to have a septic system in the city, and the certificate of occupancy will cover that. If they do not receive their certificate of occupancy from Plans Review Division, which they're going to do after this, after their entitlement process, then their entitlement will be removed. So if they cannot meet code with the septic system plans they're providing, then they won't have a special use permit.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Is there a condition on this project that covers the septic system and making sure that it's adequate?
I believe it'll be covered by that certificate of
Just
occupancy
by
condition.
there's not a condition in our plan condition, so.
Is there a condition? I was just gonna add something to that, but is there that condition about the C of Os and?
The C of O condition should be in there, to my knowledge.
I don't see anything. It says just the water and fire service lines, but nothing about the sewer.
Right.
Well, what he's saying is that they can't get their C of O without having providing a connection to sewer or an adequate septic system. They won't be able to get that. That's part of the building code review for when they have to get their permits and get their certificate of occupancy. So, I mean, you can add that to it, but it is something that will be checked as part of the code review when they get their permits.
Okay.
To clarify, this is Wayman Arnican. To clarify on that, the restrooms are directly related to the quantity of occupants per code for the permanent buildings. The tent structures are temporary and will be permitted through the fire department, and those the restrooms for those will in all likelihood remain as portable and serviced, brought and removed by an outside third party. Just to clarify.
Okay. All right, if there's not any more questions from the commission to the applicant, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony then.
I have one quick question. Sorry.
Okay. Go
Brought
ahead.
up the different entities on the property, even though it's 9 acres. Is parking an issue?
Is that for me? I don't believe so. They have recently provided a new parking plan. This has been in operation for a couple of years without a special use permit, and they're now seeking to be approved the proper way. And previously they parked on the northern lot, and recently have decided to move the parking to the southern lot on the same property, so no one has to cross the street when attending their events. And I don't believe parking will be an issue. It will meet our standards of code. It'll be a gravel parking lot, I believe, and will be paved 15 feet as written in 88-420 M.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm through.
I can open up for public testimony now. Okay, thank you. All right, if there's anybody out there that that would like to speak regarding docket item number 2, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, I don't see anyone in the chamber. We have 2 people online, though, who have been promoted, Leo Oppenheimer and Corey Henry.
Okay, let's start with Leo Oppenheimer.
Hello, Commissioners. Leo Oppenheimer, 3315 Campbell Street, KCMO 64109. I actually represent the company that's across the street from the venue, just north of 83rd Street. And in the past, the event venue had used our property for parking. And I spoke with Mr. Clements a few weeks ago, so maybe this is outdated information, but last I heard, they were still going to use our property. At least that was listed in their plan. But we are currently negotiating a lease with them to do that, and we have not finished those negotiations yet. So to the extent the plan requires using any property north of the street, I either ask that it be denied or continued so that we can get that lease together.
Would you like me to respond to that?
Let's wait till, yeah, go ahead.
I apologize to Mr. Leo Oppenheimer. I did not update him that they did revise their plans and moved the parking to their own property and off of the property that he is negotiating a leasing agreement for. So it's not on the plans any longer.
Okay, thanks for letting me know.
Okay, so we're good there. Okay, who's next, Joe?
It was Corey Henry was the next person.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. I'm actually Corey Henry, Chenry Evans and Nail, 800 Northeast Vanderbilt Lane, Lee Summit, Missouri, 64064. I'm the attorney for Crestview Dairy Events, and I was actually just going to comment to Mr. Oppenheimer that just spoke that the lease negotiations are still underway, but we also did find alternative parking compliance that we wanted to push through as well, and so we're trying to get all of these things together at once. And so I just wanted to comment that we intend to comply with both the city's requirements for parking, but also finish negotiations of that lease as well.
Okay. Anybody else, Joe?
That's it.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Any other thoughts from the applicant?
Do we need to add anything on septic being that meets the intended use? For the
Doesn't sound like we need anything, especially since they're going through codes.
Okay.
And so they'll have to answer the question then.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one way or the other.
Okay. All right, any other thoughts from anybody? Okay, I'll take a motion then, please.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve with conditions, case number 2, as stated. Docket.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 2 with conditions stated. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
and Hill.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes in 4-0. All right, let's move on to docket item number 3.
Docket item 3 is case number CPC 2023-00034. Request to approve a rezoning from District B3-3 to District M2-3 on a 128 acres at 11889 North Ambassador Drive. Genevieve Kahn is the staff planner.
Good morning.
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 Docket item number 3 is for a rezoning without plan at 11889 North Ambassador Drive. And the rezoning is from districts B3-3 and M2-3 to be entirely M2-3, which you'll see on the map coming up in the next few slides. Site is generally located in the northern portion of the city, just east of the airport. This is the subject site. It contains multiple parcels. As you can see, the red lines are the zoning lines, and there's a lot of split zoning across multiple funky shaped parcels. So the applicant is wanting to have the entire subject site zoned as M2-3. There also was a development plan submitted. It has not been reviewed by staff as it has not passed the quality control check, but the rezoning without plan is able to move forward. So that's why it is in front of you today. I expect at some point in time you will be seeing the development plan follow afterwards. And then just to give you some context around this area, subject site is in yellow, but these green shading means open cases right now. And then the blue is a completed case. So you've seen the industrial project for these two properties, and there's another open application over here. So we're seeing a lot of increased industrial development in this section of I-435. The area plan recommendation is for commercial industrial. So this rezoning requested complies with the area plan. And this is just the language in the area plan that says what the commercial industrial designation is for. And then I just have some street views. This is on the northern portion of the site, looking south off of Northwest Cookingham Drive. So the site has a tree line buffer and the middle part has a stream running through it, but largely unforested due to agricultural uses over time. And then just another street view. This is in the southwestern portion of the site where the access is to North Ambassador, and the site is on your right here. So again, some trees, but also once you get into the middle, it's fairly clear. Staff recommends approval of this rezoning, and I can take any questions. I believe the applicant is available online.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Hill? Okay. I'll pause before I move on, just in case. All right, seeing no questions, let's welcome the applicant.
The only person that had their hand raised was someone named Brianna. Okay, that is the applicant. She's promoted.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make myself available for any questions if you have any. My name's Brianna O'Neill. Address is 4301 Indian Creek Parkway, Overland Park, Kansas.
Okay, and you represent the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant from the commission? Commissioner Hill, any questions?
No
Okay.
questions.
At this time, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 3, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, it appears no one in the chamber wishes to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything you'd like to add, Brianna?
I don't believe so. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll take a motion from the commission then.
The chair would like to make a motion for docket item number 3-00034 for approval without conditions.
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second for docket item number 3 for approval. Lisa, can you take roll call on the motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
and Hill.
Aye.
All right, looks like the motion passes and 4-0. All right, moving on, let's go to docket item number 4, please.
Docket item 4 is case number SUP 2023-00008. Request to approve a special use permit in District R6 on about 7 acres at the northwest corner of North Norton Avenue. and Northeast 46th Street to allow the construction of a new elementary school. Matthew Barnes is the staff planner. And Matt Braden is the applicant.
Yes.
I'm promoting the applicant as well.
Sorry, give me 1 second. Open this. Okay, good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
We have docket item number 4 as stated, which is a special use permit, case number CD SUP 2023-0008 for Lakewood Elementary located at 4624 North Norton Avenue. Located north of North Kansas City and south of Gladstone, as you see there. Zooming in, you can see its location in yellow north of Interstate 35. Also Interstate 29 for reference. And one last aerial view of the subject site. There is the Lakewood Greenway to the right side of the screen and St. Gabriel to the north. You can also see its location to single family residential to the west. Here's the view looking kind of southwest at the existing Lakewood Elementary, originally completed in 1959. The applicant is proposing a special use permit for a new school. The site's currently zoned R6, and then civic uses in residential districts require a SUP. They're proposing a 47,000 square foot building. They're also providing pedestrian connections to the adjacent neighborhood to the west, utilizing the current ones that exist. And they're also providing a signed pedestrian connection to the east across Norton Avenue. Here's the two site plans. The existing site plan is on the left side of the screen. You can see the building is towards the northern portion of the property with limited parking there. And then the southern portion is left more of a grass state. On the right side of the screen is the proposed site plan. The building is shifting towards the south while they're adding more parking to the north to alleviate congestion during school pickup times. And in the southern portion of the screen on the proposed site plan is where they're having their stormwater detention. Here is the landscape plan for the school. Its north is on the right side of the screen. We have worked hard with the applicant to provide adequate screening to the homes to the north, or to the west, I'm sorry. There is a significant grade change between, and the next screen will show you that grade change. That prohibits landscaping to be one, feasible, and two, effective in screening. There was 2 existing mature trees on site. They are proposing to remove both of those mature trees. Staff also recommended that they have their stormwater detention filled with, natural water absorbing and native plants, and they are electing to keep that more of a sod grass state. And also in this, you can see the pedestrian connections. If you can see my cursor from the existing single family there and over there to give kids a safe way to school. Northeast 46th Street at the southern portion cannot handle a sidewalk, as the grade change there is very significant. And here's that grade change that I was talking about. You can see the cross section showing the location of cars towards single family homes. They will be screening the cars with bushes, but additionally with the grade change, any lights shining from cars when the school hosts events at nights or early in the morning shouldn't be affecting the single family homes there. Here are two elevations. The northern elevation will be with the main entrance to the school, and the east elevation is what you'll see driving down Norton Avenue. You can see that with the elevation change there as well. The second floor, the upper story, will be larger than the lower story. With that, staff recommends approval with conditions for docket item number 4, a special use permit for Lakewood Elementary. I'll take any questions.
Has there been comments from the neighbors to the west regarding this, or it's just a?
Yeah, we haven't received any public like comments or anything. The applicant hosted their public engagement meeting as required. And
Okay, we're just trying to look out for something that could be an issue down the road. That's why they're, okay. Any questions from the commission?
I just got two. Is this going to increase the traffic into the area? Has there been a traffic study done, or is it needed to be a traffic study done?
I do not remember if they needed a traffic study on this.
I think the applicant can probably answer whether there's an increase. It would depend on if there is an increase in student enrollment.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
the applicant would know that.
Yeah, I don't know, Joe, I can answer that. This is Brayden Taylor with MKC Engineering, 11827 West 112th Street, Overland Park, Kansas. Yes, we did perform a traffic study that was required. We are increasing enrollment. That traffic study has been approved. What we're also doing to help improve that increase in traffic is we're increasing the amount of car stacking on site for cars during drop off and pickup times. So there's a good amount of drive on site that we've added with this new school to kind of alleviate, backing up onto the public street system.
And then my second question is, we're removing trees. Are we adding same coverage?
So there was 2 existing mature trees on site. That was really it in the landscaping. They have provided a lot more trees on the site.
Right,
So.
thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Hill, any questions for city staff?
No, well, yes, just one question. I noticed that some of the public comments talked about there being flooding issues along Cleveland Avenue. And the answer that was given by the applicant said that the majority of the site will be collected in the stormwater system and then piped to the stormwater detention facility. How does that work if the detention facility will be covered with grass and there's no fencing? So I just don't know where it is in relation to the property when I think about elementary kids. And that might be something that Bruce can teach me about, but.
Okay. All right, so I guess we'll let the applicant answer that one as well, if you don't mind.
To be able to
Okay.
answer that.
All right, Mr. Taylor, welcome. I guess you always say name and address for the record. So if you don't mind kind of giving us an overview of the project, please, and talk about the stormwater.
Yeah. On the stormwater side of things, what we did hear from the neighbors there on Cleveland Avenue was that that they do have some flooding and drainage issues. They didn't go into a ton of detail. What I do know is in the existing condition, there's a portion of the school site kind of along the western property line that does kind of surface flow into their backyards. And we noticed that as we started design and hearing from the neighbors. So what we've done is we've added a pretty significant drainage swell on our property that'll be along that west property line to collect all that school site water before it drains into any backyards or into any of those homes on North Cleveland Avenue. And then that'll be collected in a series of storm inlets. And then that'll be piped down there to the south side to that stormwater detention facility. That stormwater detention facility sits on the school site. It'll be, I guess the definition of that, it's a dry detention facility. So when you do get rain and storm, it'll fill up a few feet and kind of discharge and empty out over 24-hour period. It won't hold water, you know, over weeks and weeks and months on end if it is something went wrong. And then the play area will be fenced in. So kids, when they're, you know, on the asphalt or grass play or on playground equipment, they'll be in a fenced in area. That stormwater detention facility would sit outside of the fenced area.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions from the commission to the applicant? Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and open it up for public testimony then. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 4, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, I see no one in the chamber wishing to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything else to add, Mr. Taylor?
I do not. No, I think Matthew Barnes did a good job of summarizing the project. If there's any other questions, we're happy to answer them.
Just curiosity, you're taking down the old school and then building this new one, right?
Correct. Yep. The existing school will be demolished before starting construction of the new school.
Where do those students go?
That's a good question. We have Jeff Vandal with the school district may be on here. I don't know if Matthew or Joe, if you're able to promote him.
Yeah, he is, and I've just promoted him.
Okay, he can give a better answer than I can.
Okay.
Hi, this is Jeff Vandal with North Kansas City Schools. We actually have an elementary school, used to be an elementary school down in North Kansas City, the Norclay Elementary School building. It's no longer used as an elementary school. Those kids, our Lakewood kids, will go to that Norclay building during the duration of the construction. And then when we open that up, those kids will move back up to their new building.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious. All right, with that, let's close testimony then. I'll take a motion, please. Yep.
Chair, I'd like to do case number 4 for approval with conditions as stated.
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 4 with conditions stated. Lisa, can you take roll call on the motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowell,
Aye.
and Hill.
Thank you for bringing that forward and good luck as you move forward. Okay, so with that, fortunately, we've got one of our commissioners that has to leave by noon and we've got 2 cases left. Can we get through these next 2 cases by that time? Okay. All right, so case number 5, please.
Docket item 5, case number SUP 2023-00006. Request to approve a special use permit to allow for a short-term rental in District R6 on about 0.15 acres located at 5704 Oak Street. Jared Clements is the staff planner.
Go. Second here. My presentation open and share it on Zoom. Okay, before us, we have docket item number 5, case number CDSUP 2023-00006, located at 5704 Oak Street, zoning district R6. Applicant is seeking approval of a special use permit for a short-term rental. This is the location of the subject site. It's within the boundaries of the Country Club Waldo area plan. More specifically, it's on Oak Street and 57th Street, in the midst of a large residential area. So these are the key points of this case. They were not able to receive 55% of adjacent owner consent. It's a type 2 year-round STR. Type 2, just as a reminder, is the owner will not be present at the location. An opposition letter has been received, signed by over 90 neighborhood members. These are the special use permit analysis criteria. Staff is particularly concerned with items B and D, the potential for a significant adverse impact on the general welfare of the neighborhood or community, and the compatibility in terms of operating characteristics. Staff is concerned with the potential for transient uses and its impact it could have on the welfare of the community. So staff does recommend denial. Should the board decide to recommend approval with conditions, I do have 2 conditions I've attached here involving the regular conditions we associate with the STR SUP, having to do with the renewal for 2 years and having to register the short-term rental within 60 days of approval by the Board of Zoning Adjustment. With that, I'll conclude my presentation. Be happy to answer any questions.
Can you state again how many letters in opposition you received?
I believe it's 1 letter with 90 plus members of the neighborhood in opposition signing with their name and address. They have the person representing that petition has sent me a newer version that is uploaded on Compass KC that has more signatures. I believe it's called Updated Neighborhood Opposition, but there's also a previous copy attached to your staff report.
Okay. Any questions from the commission to staff?
No questions for me.
Oh, don't we have an ordinance going through on these?
We do. It's pending before city council at this time. And they haven't passed it yet.
We still need to act then.
Yeah, technically they can still ask for and receive a special use permit at this time.
Thank you.
Mhm.
With the opposition that's been stated, do we have anyone here in person or on Zoom?
We
Possibly.
haven't
Oh,
followed
we're not
yet.
there
We're
yet.
still on asking the city staff
Okay.
questions.
Well, I'm through. That was my main question.
Okay. Making sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's welcome the applicant then. If you don't, come on forward if you don't mind. You can sit up here with, if you want, or stand. It's up to you. Just like you to speak into the mic, state your name and address for the record and.
Yes,
then
sir. So my name is Ross T. Meyer. I'm the owner of 5704 Oak Street. Thank you for your time this morning, commissioners and members of this council. What I'm here for is seeking a special use permit for my property, 5704 Oak Street. Currently, we have 3 out of the 4 necessary signatures adjacent to my property. And there is support. It's not the support that 90 signatures refutes. But again, 3 out of the 4 signatures of my adjacent property owners have signed off on this. My ask today is that with your consideration, we look at what the short-term rental issue is in Kansas City and how do we approach it with responsible owners that are running a responsible operation or the desire to do so. And so with that, I just have a few points I'd like to make with your guys' consideration. Currently, right now in Brookside, where we live, or where I live, there is no neighborhood association. There might be one as a result of this hearing, which I think would be a very good thing. But how we are applying to this and how I'm trying to operate within the rules would first be tested by some sort of bylaws, some sort of rules and guidelines associated with the neighborhood association, and there is none. And so we're operating with, kind of a blind lead on how these things are supposed to go. And we're learning as we go along, and it is evolving, and we are trying to run a very responsible operation. Now, part of that responsible operation involves how we run it. I have a property manager. She's sitting right behind me. And we have rules and guidelines to make sure that the neighbors or any of their complaints are being heard and being dealt with. Some examples of this are parking situations in the street, quiet hours being enforced, the screening of potential tenants of the Airbnb property, and maintaining a very high score on the Airbnb and VRBO site. And we have all of those. And again, it's all open to evolve and it's all open to change. And the big point that I'd like to make with respect to a proactive operation, being a responsible operation, is that these people, my neighbors, some of them are behind me right now. They have the opportunity to reach out to myself or my property manager 24/7, 365. And so there's a level of accountability that goes with what we're trying to do there. And I don't believe that most other short-term rentals that are maybe having an issue getting a license are taking that proactive approach to be accountable and reliable to the neighbors in the area. I believe we should, as property owners, have a right to recoup the investment that we've made in our homes and our various assets. We do not have a right to disrupt the neighborhood. And that's why I like to keep an open forum for all my neighbors, which have all my contact information, all of my rental managers' contact information, to provide us with an ongoing complaint forum for us to fix it and adjust our policy as needed. And so as I talked a little bit about recouping your investment, when I bought this home 6 to 7 years ago, it passed inspection probably based on a poor decision I made to use my real estate agent's inspector. Since then, the property has needed a ton of repair. And so instead of trying to offload it and kind of leave it to the next person, I've invested almost $100,000 into this property. And that $100,000 in this property, I've got a whole list of things I can go through, and I can even provide most of the receipts, but I have to go search through my taxes to find more to substantiate that. But it's also faced some other issues in the surrounding community with crime by means of burglary and even, unfortunately, a deceased person found in front of our house on the street. And through those times, I've continued to stay at this property, continue to invest in it, continue to keep or take pride in the curbside appeal so that it does not lower the value of my neighbor's property by means of not showing up and looking nicely as a responsible owner in that neighborhood. And so with all those things, I'd like that to be taken into consideration for our short-term use permit. And I'd like to reiterate an excerpt from the recent audit taken by probably a member of your guys' staff, Director Jeffrey Williams. And this was conducted in 2022, I think in December. And his final response said, "I understand the scope of the audit is limited to discerning whether short-term rentals are following city code and understand the fiscal impact related to the question. There's a third dimension that the audit was not charged with investigating, and that is the operation of short-term rentals. The short-term rental property operating responsibly rarely elicits complaints from neighbors. However, those that are operated poorly do. Rentals, which serve as party houses or event spaces, generate the bulk of the complaints we investigate. The fact that these activities often occur outside of business hours greatly impedes our ability to enforce our ordinances. As mentioned previously, even if we were able to witness such activity when the enforcement case gets to court, the owner or the host may be fined $150. This is not a deterrent, and this method of enforcement will never resolve such complaints. Some communities have adopted a nuisance ordinance or similar, which to delegate enforcement to a department which does not work overnight with proper safety and training credentials to shut down a party, make arrests, or fine or spot for the amounts of which which likely deter such future activity. I suggest this is not an issue of citywide importance. I suggest this is an issue of citywide importance and concern, and therefore is an issue that the city must tackle collectively, not just one department. And so part of the rules, I read that statement, and I want to reiterate the part of the rules that we've enforced just based on the feedback of our surrounding neighbors, which we don't allow parties, we don't allow gatherings, we enforce quiet hours, we screen our guests to make sure what they're using the space for is going to be in a responsible manner. We haven't had any complaints, no noise complaints, nothing disrupting the neighborhood at 5704 to date. I still hold an open forum for any of my neighbors to be able to call me at any time to reform our policies and get better. And I suspect that as you guys go forward, you will continue to deal with this issue. How are we going to work with short-term rentals? It's probably not realistic that they'll be completely outlawed, but you'll probably, create some sort of ordinances or policies that provide a framework for them to operate responsibly. I hope that you guys can see me as somebody that's proactively trying to be a responsible landlord to this property, so that potentially when you guys are deciding whether I'll get the special use permit or not, I'll be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for the applicant?
Just a question. How long have you been operating as essentially an Airbnb or short-term rental?
Less than a year, closer to like 6 months.
Thanks.
And I'd also like to your question, I'd also like to be honest, this was operating outside the rules of having the short-term rental license. So that's 26 days or 28 days or less. And so I didn't know I was breaking those rules. And since then, we have not been operating it as a short-term rental. So I didn't really know what I didn't know, and it's a very evolving process, but I will admit that I've broken some rules. So I've received 2 city, I don't know if they're ordinance zone violations, and I think those are going to come up in May, and I suspect I'll probably have to just pay the fines on both of those and, learn my lesson and continue to operate responsibly going forward. But to your question, sorry for the long-winded answer.
Was? Okay.
Good question.
You talked about your management of your sites. Can you kind of go through that a little bit?
Sorry,
What's
what?
expected?
You repeat that?
Management of your sites and how
Sure.
you.
Sure. So I have a rental manager behind me. Her name is Samantha. So whenever somebody does elicit an indication to rent it out, one, we'll check their ratings on Airbnb, which you have to kind of build up over time. And they have to have a certain amount of public ratings and comments to be able to get to that level. So that will be one thing we check. The 2, she'll go through all of the, before she goes through all the rules of the road that we've created from feedback from supporting surrounding our adjacent neighbors. She'll inquire as to what they're using the Airbnb for. What are they in town for? What do they hope to do? How many people are staying there? Making sure it stays in accordance with the amount of people that are allowed to be at the property. Making sure that she knows, or that they know the rules of the road in terms of quiet hours, parking, and getting into the property. We have cameras in the front and the back for security purposes, and just making sure that we do everything else to not disrupt the neighbors. And so we go through all those things as we ask the guests that are trying to rent it out. We've denied a lot of people because we don't feel like they would fit under our rules of running a responsible operation. I believe that's why we've had a very good track record of not having any complaints.
Okay.
I just got one more. How many days in the last 6 months has it been actually rented?
Off the top of my mind, not many, very, very few. I don't know exactly. I've had some friends rent it out.
Third, a half?
Not less than half, less than probably a third. Less than a third. Yep.
Commissioner Hill, any questions? Okay.
No questions.
All right, so at this time, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 5, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon. So just come on up.
Should I stay here?
In the chambers here, just come on up and then speak at the podium if you don't mind.
Mr. Chair, there's also one person who's raised their hand on Zoom that I'll promote so that whenever you're ready to take them up, you
Okay,
can.
we'll do the folks first here that are in the chambers and then followed by those online.
Good morning. My name is Craig Carter. My address is 5705 McGee Street, Kansas City, Missouri, 64113. My residence is directly behind the applicant's special use permit. So a couple of comments, and then I have colleagues here and colleagues who are on the Zoom call who can amplify. We did provide a detailed petition to the Planning Commission. We laid out specifically our reasons for opposition. And some of those reasons relate very much to the neighborhood that we live in and the particular stresses that we believe a short-term rental puts on our neighborhood. Another key thing for you to know is that there's another short-term rental right next door that's being considered. So what this does is compound the risk for us as neighbors. So again, our petition lays out the 5 reasons why we think this is not a good idea. And we go into a great deal of detail about Brookside, the parking issues, potential trash issues, the lot sizes and the proximities, all these reasons why we believe that you should reject this short-term application. Let me just also talk about the adjacent owners. There are 8 of them, as Ross knows. A majority of those adjacent owners reject this idea. That's why Ross is here with the short-term with special use. So he mentioned that he's got 3 of 4 signatures. He's got 3 of 8. The second thing is that we held a public call. It was attended by about 20 people. I don't believe a single resident spoke up on behalf of this. The balance, 80–90% of the people were opposed. And then we went out to the larger neighborhood, and our current list of signees is over 100 neighbors who are opposed to this. So I'm concerned about some of the misrepresentations that we heard in the applicant's testimony just now. He mentioned 3 out of 4 signatures. It's 3 out of 8. The applicant mentioned that he lives in the neighborhood. He does not live in the neighborhood. The applicant mentioned that he operates within the rules, but under questioning, he did concede that he's been running an Airbnb since October. He talked about family being there. If you go on the website, you'll see that he's a super host. You'll see that there are 19 reviews on the website. That's a lot of family to be putting through Airbnb.
Yeah, we've kind of run out of time here. Yep. Thank you. I think I've got all your stuff here, the 5 items on your petition letter.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Julie Carter, and I live at 5705 McGee. We moved here during COVID about 2.5 years ago. We looked at a lot of houses and we chose Brookside as our neighborhood. We've lived in a lot of cities in about 7 or 8 different states, and we chose Brookside because of the neighborhood, meaning neighbors. We look directly, our backyard faces this property. The other house next door is also an Airbnb operating. Currently, the permit is under review. They share a driveway. It's really tight. We know our neighbors even during COVID, and we depend on our neighbors. We don't want to see a stream of transients every weekend, regardless of how they've been vetted by Airbnb. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Pat Strutz. My address is 14815 West 71st Terrace, Shawnee, Kansas, 66216. I own the property at 5709 McGee, and my tenant has been there for well over 10 years. He is concerned about the traffic and the very unruly sounds that have been coming from that house. He's concerned, as am I. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Marcia Liebold, and I live at 5703 Oak Street, right across the street from Ross's property. And what I want to say today is I like Ross, but parking is an issue because of the 2 Airbnbs right next to each other and they share the drive. And there's limited parking on the street. So if those of us that live there have to move our vehicles, we have to go up the street and park and walk back down. That's one issue. The other thing, I'm opposed to his Airbnb is because we have a pretty tight community. And I think it's breaking up the fabric of our neighborhood. We have block parties. Ross has even been to a block party. But an Airbnb with different people coming and going all the time, we don't know who they are. There's kids live next door and across the street. And we just can't, we have to stay together as a community and as a neighborhood. We watch over each other. We watch houses when people are on vacation. We can't do that when there's strange people coming and going. The one Airbnb sleeps 11. His sleeps 9. That's a lot of people, and with limited parking. I've already had one instance where some people from out of town had a big SUV, Suburban, and the guy yelled at me because I was parked in the street. He said, "We are at this Airbnb and my daughter needs to park here." And I didn't even know what to say. I said, "Well, I live here." So it's just little issues like that. And it's not that I don't like Ross. I do. He's a good guy, but it's just he's not from here. I was born in Kansas City. I live here. I moved to Brookside area because it reminds me of my childhood neighborhood where we kind of look out after each other. We can't look out after each other if it's just different people coming and going. So that's all. I don't have anything against Ross. I like the guy, but the Airbnb has just disrupted our street. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the audience here? Okay, let's go to those that are joining us online.
We have two, starting with Andra Eglitis.
My name is Andra Iglitis. I live at 5728 Oak Street. That is on the same block as this property. I am also a property owner. I've lived here about 4 years. I'm an architect. I see the damage that non-owner occupied short-term rentals can do to neighborhoods. I feel as if this commercial venture has no place for us. Should Ross wish to recoup his investment, as he says, there's other means to do it rather than to have it listed as a short-term rental. I live far enough away that parking is an issue and can disrupt the accessibility that's available to me and for my guests. Oak Street is a secondary street with parking only on one side. So both sides, both neighbors have to negotiate half of an available area on a street for parking. I feel as if I support the majority of adjacent neighbors who denied approval of this request, and I hope that you honor their opinions as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next person's Nancy Nealon, but we've had other people raise their hands since. Can I just ask that everyone on Zoom who wants to speak raise their hand now so I can promote you all at once? Thank you. Nancy Nealon.
Yes, hello. My name is Nancy Nealon. I live at 6031 Cherry Street. I've been in my home over 30 years, raised my daughter here, sent her to Kansas City Public School. I love this neighborhood. I know all my neighbors. It's kind of that quintessential, if I need to borrow a cup of sugar, I can go next door and borrow a cup of sugar. In the past year and a half, 2 of the homes went up for sale. And we were all excited, like, who are our new neighbors going to be? Unfortunately, both homes were bought by individuals that wanted to turn them into type 2 short-term rentals. One, the couple is from California. They started operating illegally. I reported them. They were cited. They now operate 30 days or more. So they are in compliance now. And I tell you, it's a lot better having somebody there for at least 30 days than people coming in and out all the time. The other house is across the street from me. and they were planning on short-term rental. They are live a couple blocks away, and because the neighbors were opposed to it, they agreed to operate it, at least for now, 30 days or more. And so, you know, I think that's a viable option. Type 2 they're a hotel. It's a business. It's a hotel. It's not a residence. And so I think a hotel business belongs in a business district, not in a residential area. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And the last person was John Still.
John, as you take yourself off mute, please state your name and address for the record. John, you there?
He unmuted himself and then
I
remuted.
got it. Are you there now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is John Still. I live at 5732 Oak. I have lived on Oak Street 51 years, where we now have 2 short-term rentals operating illegally. I understand that there are 204 active short-term rentals operating illegally in the city. I believe that's 2004. Hosting visitors, Airbnb and Vrbo say that there are 1,894 short-term rentals operating in the city today. The KC Neighborhoods Advisory Committee identified 3,000 short-term rentals operating in KC, most of these illegal. I believe it would be wise to adopt a moratorium on approving any new ventures until the city has adequate budget and staff to monitor the legitimate venues and seek the closure of those that choose to operate illegally. As like most of my neighbors, we believe that neighbors make neighborhoods, not the visitors who are guests in our city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else, Joe?
Oh, that's it.
Would you like to speak yet? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I am Ross's manager, and I just want to say that I'm a little shaky right now because I was a little nervous to come here because when we did open conversation with the public engagement meeting, it didn't go very well. And to be honest, I was attacked. But I do want to stand up for Ross and for the property. We do host families that are joining other families in Brookside. They want to stay there because they have pets and we allow pets. There's a trolley trails nearby for families and pets where it's very close, and there's a park right across the street. We have cameras. We've never gotten a complaint about parking. We have a shared driveway and we actually can fit several cars in the driveway. It's a back private entrance where they don't bother neighbors. I've never seen or heard from a guest or on the cameras that there was a complaint or an argument about parking. And we actually are hosting 2 guests per room. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Samantha Ramirez, 1679 South 31st Street, Kansas City, Kansas.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Obviously, there's a lot of comments, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of comment against all the issues that have been brought up. I think, traffic, parking, noise, and just the general having a short-term rental is a concern. So looking to see how you're going to overcome some of that.
Sure. And I appreciate everybody's testimony. And what I would say to everybody's concerns is, again, we're open to hearing everything and putting a better, more comprehensive policy in play to be able to solve some of these issues, particularly around parking, noise, or anything like that. If I make myself and my manager available, and we don't get contacted with complaints, it's hard for us to fix any issues that we potentially have. We do have supporters in the neighborhood. They've told me that they have not wanted to speak on this Zoom forum because they've been facing some pressure from neighbors going around and canvassing for their lack of support or support based on where they stand. So I've respected their wishes to keep them out of the light for this. Some of them are actually on this call. But I am seeking a longer term option. So I'm trying to listen. So I'm actively seeking a longer term rental. One person on this call said that it might be a better compromise to do a 28-day or longer rental. And based on the feedback from the neighbors, that's what I'm trying to do. This short-term rental gives me some optionality to be able to, utilize my space to be able to cover my costs until I do so. And then the last thing I'll say is the public forum that we hosted on Zoom, which is a requirement per the rules to get this short-term license, doesn't state that you have to engage with the public whatsoever. I think you can just sit there and be quiet. It's basically, you just have to hold a forum for people to be able to band together and get their thoughts organized for wherever they stand on this issue. From the start, both myself and Samantha, my rental manager, we were on camera, making ourselves available for questions and stating what our purposes was, and basically showing the accountability and responsibility that we wish to operate under. I don't know how often that happens with short-term rentals. I hear not too often, but I hope those actions show the council that we are serious and legitimately wanting to do something that's not going to disrupt the neighborhood. With that, I just yield back. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
Just want to state on the record that anything less than 30 days is a short-term rental. Just so.
Is it 28 days short-term, 28 or more, or 30?
No, you have to rent for 30 or more for it to be considered a household living use. So just want to make sure that.
No,
that's
perfect for the
clarification.
thank you for the clarification.
Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and close testimony and speak amongst the commission. Any comments anybody has here?
I feel for the owner, but I also got to listen to the neighborhood. There's been a lot of obviously signatures against it, so I'll be voting denial.
I have a clarification question for Jared. You had put up two of the conditions. How, is there a radius of consenters needed for short term?
If they, to go through the admin approval process, which would mean they wouldn't have to go through the special use permit process, it's either or. There is anyone with an immediately adjacent property line, basically abutting the property, they need 55% of to go through that process.
Which means
Does that
4
answer your
years.
question? I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, it does. I was thinking, there's some regulated industries, for example, they have a square foot radius that they contact people to get their consent on, and they have to get a certain percentage. So I was wondering if that applied here. So no, you clarified, it's just the abutting neighbors. One of the other questions I had, I believe Samantha did speak on it because I kept hearing that there was a shared driveway. So there is option for your tenants to park in the rear. The issue may arise if they have someone coming to see them that needs parking. Yeah.
Yep. Need to come up to the mic. Sorry. We have to record this.
There can fit about, so there's 2 garages back there as well. You can park inside the garage and there's additional parking on the side on both homes.
So do you own both homes or just one of them?
Just one,
Okay.
sorry. So on his side, yes, he has a private garage and additional parking. You can fit 4 cars up there.
I need to speak about what. Parking. Just take a second.
Yeah, I think we're done with testing. We're just amongst the commission right now. Just, that's why she's getting clarification. Unless you want to ask. Another clarification there too.
Okay, you want to clarify the parking, miss? Come on.
Ross has a garage and the Airbnb next door has a garage. But there's one car on this side, one car on this side. And Ross had said that they could use the garage if they wanted to. I've never seen anybody pull in the garage. I imagine there's probably storage. But when there's people in both places, they can't all park there. If the one sleeps 11 and his sleeps 9, that's multiple cars. So they're going to be on the street in the driveways.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any questions or thoughts, Commissioner Hill?
Yeah, it's really just unfortunate. I mean, I travel a lot. I like Airbnbs, but they have to make sense for the neighborhood. Purchasing a home is people's, one of their most important investments. And so, I have to lean in with community. If it doesn't make sense for the community, if it's not a good place, if it's, so I'll be voting to approve the denial.
Just my comment too. I sympathize with the owner of the site, but also see that there's a lot of opposition from the neighborhoods on this, and I will also be supportive of a denial.
I'm really torn on this one. I'm usually going with the neighborhood. That's why I asked for the clarification of radius, because the immediate neighbors from the applicant are supportive and the outlying neighbors have organized and said no. So I'm really torn. I think I would still vote for yes on this one.
Okay, I need a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move docket item number 5, go with the staff recommendation of denial.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for docket item number 5 in favor of denial. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Beasley,
No.
okay. You seconded the motion for denial?
Yes, but she voted against the actual motion.
Okay. Crowell
Aye.
and Hill.
Aye.
Okay, so the motion passes in favor of denial 3-1. Thank you for bringing it in. And next week, I think you're at the BZA.
May 9th.
May 9th. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move to docket item number 6, please.
All right, docket item number 6 is case number CPC 2023-00026. Request to approve a development plan for a multi-unit residential building and associated parking on less than half an acre at Broadway Boulevard and West 3rd Street. Larissa Chambi is the staff planner.
Good morning. Let me
Morning.
share my screen. All right, as was previously stated, this is docket item number 6, CD CPC 2023-00026. This is the location of the site. It's located in the greater downtown area. The development plan is for a 9-story multi-unit residential structure with 88 units and associated amenities. The surrounding lots are zoned as M1-5. And as you can see from the aerial, there's an existing structure on the site. And then just to the north, there's a smaller building, and that building will remain on site. That's a different property. Access to the site is off of West 4th and Broadway, as you can see here. The development will take up the majority of the site. There are 2 levels of parking on the lower 2 levels, and the rest are residential units. The first floor consists mostly of lobby space, garage, and short-term bike parking. There's also a small 416 square foot residential unit. And then the second floor has the clubhouse and fitness and pool, and then residential units the rest of the way up. The Broadway Bridge to the west is slated to be demolished. We don't have a timeline for that yet. However, that would allow for additional sunlight, additional pedestrian connectivity, and a potential realignment of 4 West 4th Street. The developer has taken that into consideration and provided additional street trees and enhanced the pedestrian experience along the south and west sidewalks. The applicant is providing alternative landscaping alternatives throughout the site on the different levels due to the building taking up a majority of the site. Here are some elevations for you to take into consideration. The construction materials are made up of architectural panels, fiberglass windows, and aluminum storefront and decorative panels, which you can see along the parking garage levels. Here is a rendering of the building. The construction materials do match the surrounding area, and I'll show you a picture of one of the existing apartment buildings in the area. Here's a view of the site. The development site is on the corner. You can see the street from the corner of West 4th and Broadway. And then I just kind of zoomed in on the building further down the road where it also has the various colors that will match the development. Here is a site from 3rd Street, which shows the existing building that will remain and then the building that will be demolished in order to build the development. The developer is proposing 65 of the required 88 parking spaces within the parking garage. However, due to the site constraints and the location of the development close to different forms of transportation, staff is supportive of placing a condition on the project to allow for alternative compliance parking. That way, the building height does not increase and there's no need to create another surface parking lot. That approval will be required prior to building permit. The applicant is also providing or requesting a deviation to the floor area ratio to allow for a floor area ratio of 5.31. And we're recommending approval with conditions. And I can answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, any questions for city staff?
No questions.
Okay. With that, let's go ahead and welcome the applicant. Good morning.
Morning, how you doing, everybody?
Good.
Good morning. Tim Homburg, NSPJ Architects, 3515 West 75th Street. I'm presenting here and on behalf of the applicant. Taylor McKee is on virtually. George Bird is here in attendance, as well as our legal counsel, Charles with Hush Blackwell. I'm just going to kind of briefly go through a little bit more graphic imagery of the project, just to kind of give you a little bit more contextual imagery of kind of our vision for the project. Obviously, this western edge of the River Market, you know, we really kind of looked at this location as being kind of the bookend of the River Market, and really a great location with now the relocation of kind of the highway system getting pushed farther to the west. It really kind of created a nice buffer zone for us to be able to take a great advantage of this kind of unique site and kind of continue that streetscape that kind of started with the office building, then RM West along 4th Street, and then kind of continue our facing along 4th Street. If you'd like to go to the next page, please. You know, two of the big things that we focused on was obviously the orange lines is the streetcar lines, and then the blue lines are the Heritage Trail lines. The connectivity of our project to both of these lines were very important. The things we spoke about with being able to have the people that inhabit this be able to have a connectivity to the River Market, as well as all the destinations that come as part of the streetcar line. If you want to go ahead and jump to the next slide, please. This rendering actually here shows the new location of the newly designed interchange with the new bridge going across the river. And you can kind of see that there is that additional relief. You can kind of see the empty site there just to the left of the RM West buildings there. If you want to go jump to the next slide. This is kind of an up close look at the site plan. Obviously, as staff talked about, our building does encompass the vast majority of the site. But with what you can kind of notice is that to the left, with the Broadway Street. And then additionally, we have, as part of the as part of the work that's being done on the bridge, we're actually going to have a nice wide sidewalk that's actually going to become a great attribute to the site that actually lends to the connectivity to the Heritage Trail site. That's going to wrap around and then connect to the east. And then obviously the extra relief of the green space to the highway. Staff already talked about the parking garage. The site slopes about 12 feet across the site. So the lowest level of the garage is going to be completely underground on the 4th Street side, and then obviously exposed on the north end of the lower part of the site. And then staff spoke about, the activation with the amenities along the 4th Street side there that are on the right side graphic. Next page, please. We created some additional streetscape renderings that kind of show, how we're basically focusing on creating, activity of the building at the streetscape level. This image here is at the streetscape that was basically is along the west boundary of our building. The alternating glass and metal panels kind of create a little bit more activity and visual interest for the pedestrian that are walking along the streetscape. So it doesn't, we're basically trying to mask as much as possible the look of it being an above ground parking structure, and trying to replicate as much of a, visual fenestration of a building as we can along that streetscape. And obviously on the 2nd floor, you do see the railings and the trellis work of the amenity deck, which is on that 2nd floor, which staff talked about, which then helps bring that pedestrian or that resident activity out on top of that rooftop, and then bring an additional layer of pedestrian activity up there as well. This is a shot that is on the 4th Street side that looks at our main entry into the building. Obviously, we focused a lot about creating large expanses of storefront along this space. And then again, the layers of landscaping with street trees along the curb edge, as well as creating either boxed planters or planting beds along the edge of the building to kind of get additional layers of green along the faces of the building. These are a couple of areas that we definitely took into consideration is how we looked in the adjacencies to RM West, which is to our east, as well as that existing building to our north. The top left corner slide is that a building just immediately adjacent to our north. There is a retaining wall there that's shown in that graphic of our east elevation. And we are, even with that close proximity, we are continuing to look at how we engage and create fenestration to our building and not just kind of create a blank side of architecture of the building, even though we are in close proximity to the building on a couple of the sides. Kind of like staff spoke about on our 2nd floor, the yellow indicates our amenity space for our residents. And then, flanking on both sides are the expanded terrace areas for the residents on the 2nd floor, as well as the communal areas for the residents. And here's some inspirational imagery of what we would envision some of these communal areas for the residents being, with a pool area, covered trellis area, and fire pit areas. Typical upper floors are going to be a combination of 1-bedroom and 1-bedroom den units. And then on the right-hand floor plan, again, we're going to have a upper floor, open air, covered terrace area that is specifically just kind of an area to where you can kind of look towards the north and towards the northwest for those city views, kind of in an elevated, for those elevated views. Again, kind of highlighting the blow up of that amenity area on that upper terrace area. Obviously, kind of, with the inspirational imagery, what we really envision that elevated view of that, it's really kind of, if you've ever been down that area, looking back up towards the south and kind of the south and the southwest, the city kind of rises up as the city kind of goes up the hillside. It's actually it's a very striking view. So we really wanted to take advantage of those views on that corner of the project. And then finally, this is kind of with our building in place, again, with the overlay of the new reconfigured bridge and highway system coming along the adjacency of our building. Obviously, you can see that we do have quite a bit of relief from our building to now the newly located Broadway extension. And then just kind of more contextual sites. Obviously, you can see that with the second floor trellis work that you see on the left and right hand sides of the building, that we do have amenities along that 4th Street side. Again, having that resident activity on that second floor that can kind of look down and be active, and can continue that pedestrian activity, along the west on 4th Street. And then another highway, another upward downward looking view that looks at the trellis area, the pool area, as well as kind of, getting a shot of how the street and the sidewalk kind of wraps around the garage area, and then how we've kind of addressed how that corner looks and how we've kind of set the edge of the architecture of kind of this corner of the River Market area. And that's kind of a high level points of my presentation, and we're up to open for any questions that the commission might have.
You bet. So there's no commercial on that lower level?
That is correct.
Okay. And then on the north side, are you still going to touch up against the building? Or are you going to?
We're going to be a little bit
delicate.
We're going to be a little bit off of it. Yeah.
Okay. No chance to purchase that and make it a part of your project though.
We tried.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be tough.
So can I expand on that question?
Sure.
So the fire department have anything to say about that?
We have the ability to, obviously with Broadway on the west, 4th and 3rd Street. And then obviously on the back side of RM West, there's an additional parking lot. So we have access, with the exception of just the RM West building, we have access around all 3 sides of the building for fire apparatus.
How about the closeness? They don't have any say on the closeness?
With basically hose reach, we're within that 150-foot distance from the street edge into the building from those 2 sides, because it is a fairly narrow lot.
Yeah, they got to put fire protection between the 2 buildings there. That's what she's after.
Yeah.
Is
And when, being a building of this size, we're going to be built of non-combustible construction. We'll have a full fire suppression system. Obviously, the garage levels are going to be when we're interacting with that building of those levels, the garage will probably going to be a precast concrete. So it will be a much more durable construction when we're in relationship to that existing 1-story building.
Okay. You mentioned the extra wide sidewalk and you kind of tied it into the trail. The material the sidewalk is going to be made of, is that the walkable, easy on the knees concrete surface?
If you want to jump back to the slide that shows kind of the blow up of the site plan. Yeah, right there. So the wide white band that's kind of on the left edge that has the black borders on it, that is going to be built by ODOT as part of the bridge expansion. We don't have the specs for that, but I would assume that would be per MoDOT standards.
likely it'll be civil engineering gray colored and concrete.
I was
Likely.
pushing for better surface.
Yeah.
And then I guess my next question would be, what type of affordability do you have?
I believe will be fully market.
Full at market? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
FAA approval, have you got that or not?
I'm sorry, sir?
The FAA approval, don't you have?
Yes, we've spoken with the FAA and we spoke with the city manager, Brian Platt, and in general, over the entire River Market, the FAA is kind of stepped back off of their heights, but obviously we're in the process of getting the heights verified with the FAA right now.
Risa, do we have a condition in there about getting the approval before the permit?
I think there's one from the aviation department.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. if
Yeah.
There is one there, John. I was just wondering, how is that going to hold up what's the?
We've been speaking with the FAA probably for the last 6 months to a year. Obviously, other projects and part of the river market have been kind of paving a way for kind of setting the standard for how the rest of the river market is going to be reacting to this. We feel that our numbers are within the FAA guidelines, and we've actually got a little bit of fluff built in there as well. But we will be providing our exhibits to the FAA here very soon.
Commissioner Hill, any questions?
No, no questions. You guys covered it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 6, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber who wishes to speak, and we have one person online named Rob Ryman.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, good. Thanks for allowing me to speak here. On Tuesday, April 10th, the neighborhood came together for one of the public meetings that the developer met with the community. I live just a block away, so it is my backyard. Good news is the neighborhood warmly received the developer's plan. We like it. It's a little higher. You know, there are all the issues that you've already presented, with the exception of one, which I'm actually frankly disappointed that the developer hasn't discussed a neighborhood issue that was brought up. I thought the process was to incorporate these things. Our only issue is the sidewalk on the west side. So if you could bring up the streetscape on the west side, I'll continue to share our concern. Our concern is the developer's done a really nice job with almost every aspect of this, with the exception of the sidewalk on the west side. It is unacceptable for the neighborhood. We discussed that, and I actually thought in our public meeting we came to a really wonderful agreement on how we would manage that. The individuals and architect that attended the meeting, we talked about the importance of creating some bump outs that would allow some of those trees, perhaps not all of the trees on the west side, to be moved into bump outs, creating a much larger free zone for pedestrian traffic. As the developer discussed, there's some important navigation for our neighborhood to get to the new area under the bridge, which I understand is going to be activated and programmed with lots of different ideas that are coming up. And so having a very narrow band just didn't seem to really work. So our suggestion, and I thought our agreement, was that they would incorporate some bump outs, move many of the trees into the bump out session. And the neighborhood also expressed, those of you who are familiar with the river market, we have a very high density of animal lovers and pet walkers. And as much as it's kind of a funny thing to talk about, dog waste is just a real issue. So we encourage the developer to consider taking a bump out, moving some of the trees out. Well, we love the trees. We just think it makes sense to move them into a bump out and perhaps create a place in the bump outs also for the dogs to have a relief spot as well. So just wanted to go on record again, Rob Ryman, River Market resident. We had lots of people attend that meeting, but we also thought the developer had incorporated our recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else, Joe?
That's it.
All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Have one comment there. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, we did hear those comments. The existing condition of the distance between the property line and the existing curb is tight. We don't control that distance. That's public right of way. Obviously, that would be a discussion that could happen between the city and Public Works and us if they would be willing to talk about that, but obviously that's going to narrow an existing street. And so that's why it's been, we obviously had this conversation with the people, the gentleman, the people at this meeting of that there's certain things that we can do that's obviously on our site that we can control, and there's certain things that are off of our site that we can't control. Obviously, we can't put a street tree on a bump out that encroaches into a street, into a 2-lane street. So that makes it a little bit difficult.
That's MoDOT right away. It's on the west, or is that city right away?
I don't know who particularly owns it. Since the whole moving of the bridge and the overpass and everything, I'm not sure if that, obviously probably originally MoDOT, but I'm not sure if they have seceded that with that. Don't know.
So you haven't investigated it then? You have or haven't investigated?
We have not investigated who is the current owner of that. It'd be great if they would close off Broadway through that and we could have a nice little pocket park, because realistically, the area there is, it serves a, serves a little bit of purpose, but, I think that it could be a one-way too, if we want to have a little more green space. Obviously, those are things we can talk about, but those are things out of our control.
Any other comments?
None at this time. Thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and close public testimony. And any comments from the commissioners? Or motion?
Ready for a motion?
I am, yes.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion for docket item number 60026 for approval with conditions.
You want to add or think about just needing to be some kind of effort to work with the right of way on the west side? Or bump outs or anything, or no?
I don't.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind putting that just to investigate it a little further. I think that helps with the walkability and community aspect of it.
I just make an amendment.
Yeah.
Or an addition.
When do you?
I'd like to make a motion for docket number 60026 to add a condition of investigating the west side reconfiguration.
Okay.
To add bump outs.
Joe?
Second.
Yeah, when do you want the investigation to be complete? Do you want it to be before council? Do you want it to be before building permit?
For building permit. I get with you.
Got a second.
Okay.
Very
You
good.
got a second?
I have got a third even. Okay, so I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 6 with the addition of condition 28 to review the west side to see if we can add some bump outs and have that done prior to building permit. So Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Beasley,
Aye.
Crowe,
Aye.
and Hill.
Aye.
It looks like the motion passes 4-0. Thank you for
everybody.
bringing it in and good luck as you move forward.
Excellent. And you got like 40 minutes to spare.
Well, no, I still got one more big item to go through.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right. So, anything else to bring before the commission? Anybody has? I don't see anybody out there. So I sent everybody some documents yesterday, and I need to go back and look at the emails here, but basically the city is going through an audit to check on the operations of various commissions and boards. And we've been sent a survey that's they're asking us to fill out before the end of the month. And the goal is with this survey is to go through that with all the commissioners. We could either go through the whole thing if you like, or I assume that you all read it word for word. And if you felt strongly on some of these items, can let me know which those are, and I could answer, we could talk about those. Or we could look at, just let me answer and submit it. It's up to you.
I got into the link, but then it looked like I had to
Okay.
fill out stuff. And then it said you couldn't actually change it as if you got into the survey. So I didn't go through the whole questionnaire,
Okay.
but I did actually have a look at the other documents that you had sent us, skimmed them. I wouldn't say put them to memory. We look pretty good as a board, I think, on compliance is my view, through the Joe and Sarah keeping us on track, essentially.
I agree. Yeah. I think so. So does that mean we need to go through this questions one by one? There's only
Are there any
5 pages.
Is there any ones that you,
I don't think it'll take too long to go through them. There's only 34 questions.
34?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you ready, Commissioner Hill?
Go.
Where'd she leave? Commissioner Hill? I can't go through them then. I don't have a quorum.
Yeah.
She's gone.
Okay.
Well, we won't
Do
have.
you
enough
want me to
meeting.
call her?
Yeah,
Okay.
don't mind. Yeah, because we don't have another meeting, and it's the thought is that we all go through it. So by the time,
Do we have to fill them out individually?
no, they're looking for me to fill it out and submit it. I can delegate that to you if you'd like to take that on.
No, I'm good to go.
I was thinking many of those didn't apply to us. Of the 34 question.
Once.
Yeah, I think so.
So I have a question, hoping you can refresh my memory. For the August meeting, did we do the first or second one as not meeting?
You guys decided last time, since you only have one meeting in July, that you're gonna meet twice in both meetings.
We
in
have one
August.
in July this year?
Yeah, because the first meeting would have fallen on July 4th. So I decided for you guys when we made the calendar that you did want to meet on July 4th, so.
Okay,
And you weren't here last meeting, I don't
No.
think, so that's why you didn't know.
okay. Thank you.
Any luck, Lisa?
She's just rejoined.
Oh,
She looks like she's in a car.
uh-oh. Commissioner Hill? Commissioner Hill, you available?
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we got you now. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to join from my phone.
Okay, that's okay. We just need to go through this survey real quick.
Okay.
All right. So, first question, did the board commission meet to discuss the checklist? Yes. Second question, was a checklist discussed in a public meeting with the discussion recorded in published meeting minutes? Yes. Question 3 is who's filling out this application? And I'll put my information on that. Question 4, has the board set overall goals for the organization? And these next several questions are all with answers of yes, no, don't know, or not applicable. So again, has the board set overall goals for the organization?
Aren't they set by policy in the?
I think so.
That we've got?
I mean, you guys have rules, but those aren't really goals that you guys can set rules and regulations for your own mission. But that, I don't think that's the.
So not applicable, seems right. Has the board prepared a mission statement? Not applicable.
Right.
Has the board communicated organizational goals to the mayor and city council?
Well, don't they
They
communicate that
communicate that to us. So I think that's not applicable or no.
Yeah, either one. I mean, you're established by state statute, so.
Right. As a board engaged in strategic planning. That's not applicable. Okay, board should adopt policies that delineate board and staff responsibilities. Has the board adopted policies that delineate the power of the CEO?
Have a CEO. Have a chair.
Yeah. Has the board adopted policies that prohibit management actions that are unethical or unacceptable? No. Has the board adopted policies that prescribe board CEO relationship? That's not applicable. Has the board adopted financial planning, revenue and expenditure policies? Not applicable. All right. Question 12. This is a section on board should ensure management compliance with board directives. Has the board specified what the board and staff must report on and when?
Well, that's
Well, I
policy.
mean, yeah, a lot of that's set by ordinance. Like what you must deal, the agenda items, like your business, that's.
So yes. Kind of way I see it. For boards expending 100,000 or more, has the board provided external review of the organizational financial statements? Not applicable.
What's our breakfast? I don't know.
I don't, it's gotta fit.
Definitely
It's
not 100,000.
okay. Board should ensure accountability for achieving the organization's goals. So has the board monitored the organization's progress towards accomplishing its mission?
No, I would say no. And again, like Sarah said, you guys, planning commission's a little different than just any board that might exist. You guys are chartered or established by the state.
So not
statute.
applicable.
Right. So you guys.
Okay. In the past 4 years, has the board reviewed and updated policies, mission statement, and our goals? Not applicable. Okay. So here, this section's on board should ensure a high level of board performance and effectiveness. So question 16, has the board adopted policies that prescribe board activities and the manner in which board meetings are conducted, the committees are structured, and decisions are communicated?
Yes, your rules and regs do that.
Yeah. Has the board adopted a board manual or bylaws?
Yep. What that is.
Has the board adopted a code of ethical conduct? That's. Has the board adopted a conflict of interest policy?
They just have the policy.
Yeah.
So yes. Okay. All right, question 20. Have all board members submitted financial disclosure statements to the city clerk if required? We don't have that. That's not applicable.
Have the person.
Not financial, it's more business or
That's what they're called in the code.
it is a
I
financial.
assume that's what, yeah, it's called a personal financial.
Okay, so yes, on that then. Does the board have an orientation for new members? You guys get that?
Yeah, we went through it.
Okay. Has the board adopted and enforced an attendance absenteeism policy? We haven't really enforced it.
I just give you dirty looks.
Messing up our quorum.
Yes, we're reporting this, so
Just have Lisa call you.
is that a policy or is it a? No?
No, we don't. You don't have a policy on attendance.
Does the board conduct a collective self-evaluation? Think so.
Now,
Does the board set and control meeting agendas?
no. I mean, I guess you could, staff does it, but I guess you could object and we could change it.
So that's really not, no. Okay, we'll leave it at no. Okay, so boards should represent the people of Kansas City. Has the board had meetings with mayor and city council? No. Does the board assess the needs, concerns, and demands of the people of Kansas City regarding the organization's activities? Yes. Does the board encourage public engagement such as allowing public comments at board meetings?
Yes,
Yes. Big yes.
not too long.
Okay, only a few left here. So we're on number 28 already. Does the board conduct business in accordance with the Missouri Sunshine Law, including but not limited to posting public meeting notices with agendas, publishing meeting minutes, and opening meetings to the public? Yes. Okay, has the board developed a board profile containing job descriptions for current and desired board members to help the mayor or appointing official make appointments to the board? That part of our.
Not applicable. Because we're appointed by the mayor. He should know.
Not applicable. What percentage of board members live within Kansas City, Missouri? That's 100%. Does the board membership demographics reflective of the diversity of Kansas City?
I think we are.
Only got one Northland representative. Well, now the Coquithia's moved north.
Yeah, I've moved now.
You're moved now?
I moved. I'm in Clay County, Subdistrict 1.
Okay,
Where's our south and
so I think that's yes, anyways.
Baker.
Baker? Here we go.
Yeah, so how many board seats does the board have? We have 8. How many vacancies does the board currently have? 0. Is there anything else you want to tell us about this board?
No.
Anything, anybody?
it's one of the most high performing planning commissions ever. So,
Okay. All right, none. Anything else? Anything you'd like to add, Commissioner Hill?
Nope. You guys did good.
Okay. Anything else? All right, so a motion to adjourn.
NFF draft.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Have fun if you're going.